Welcome to the next exciting episode of No Dice, No Glory, your one-stop podcast shop for all your wargaming needs. Joining us today are Tom Mullane, Tom Burgess, General Glenn, and Matt Varnish. Without any further ado, I'm going to throw it over to the boys.
And thank you for that introduction. We are joined tonight by Iron Tom Burgess.
Hey, guys.
General Glenn.
Hey.
And Matt Varnish.
How's it going, guys?
And this is our last podcast before Historicon. And we're going to give you our take on a ton of news that we had coming out of England. I feel kind of jealous of the Breakthrough Assault guys for getting to see all this cool stuff. I think I'm the only one of us going to Historicon, or is Glenn going to be there?
I should be there.
Oh, sweet. Okay. So yep. I get a buddy.
Out for this year.
It's not just Mitch, because I know Mitch loves me, but I feel like I get on Mitch's nerves. So we're just going to kind of start off in part one by talking about what we've been up to. Part two, we're going to get a quick update on the campaign that just concluded. And then we'll dig into the news. And I will try to keep a good record of when things happen so that if you want to skip us blathering about painting, you're welcome to do that. So let's start out with Mr. Varnish. Tell us what you've been up to and what you've been painting, what you've been doing.
Oh, I have been suffering under this heat wave that we've got up here, hottest it's ever been. So I haven't painted since that started. But before that, I was working on what I think is going to be my Egyptian army for Fate of a Nation / Nam. And it looks like / Oil Wars coming up. So it's rebasing infantry for the third time. I was rebasing that while I was watching some World Cup. Deutschland über alles. They got eliminated before the knockout round, so I got more painting done because I wasn't glued to the TV. I've also been working on the very last of my Italian mid-war force, which is an extra set of Italian guns. So I'll be able to make 8 of the Italian artillery pieces, which are trash, but I'm still going to use them, and not the Capture 25 pounders. So that's what I've been working on.
All right. And Mr. Iron Tom, what have you been doing?
Well, I think the most significant things I've done lately was went to NashCon, and I ran the Team Yankee and the a version 4 late war Armies of Late War tournament. So that was a tournament. I did one on Friday and one on Saturday. That was a good bit of fun, and I had to play as ringer in both, unfortunately. So we had 10 for Team Yankee on Friday night and 12 on the next day. So for the late war, so that was good. And then Adepticon was a big focus after that. I went up there to Columbus, Ohio, and linked up with my brother. I played bolt action there though for the first time in a tournament, and that was an interesting experience. We had 9 players, only 6 of them finished all 3 rounds, and I was third of the 6 that finished. So yay. And but it was fun getting ready for it. So most of my painting at focus, as always, has been tournament, geared towards tournament preparation. So bolt action Germans is what I've been working on for a while. Nice. And then nice. I think and Historicon, as you know, is out, and also been doing a lot of gaming for the Tunisian campaign, and that was just wrapped up. We'll talk about that later. And then been doing some Fate of a Nation gaming locally. So been fairly busy.
Cool, Mr. Glenn.
Well, I've been focusing on Team Yankee Early War. I'm going to go play Vietnam tomorrow night, and been trying to bulk up my Jordanians according to the new rules, and looking forward to bringing those out. And then, of course, finishing my Marines to bring to Historicon for the Team Yankee tournament. So a lot of different forces going on right now, and my only thing with that is that it's kind of a lack of focus to the guys that are out there playing Team Yankee, because some want to do Nam, some want to do Fate of the Nation, and some want to continue on with the newer forces that have just come out.
I feel like they've let out a lot of stuff this year. I know we were kind of chasing our tail, trying to cover as much of it as we could. It's nice to have choices, but I feel like I'm a slow painter anyway. So even if I bought in every one of these things, I wouldn't have had the time to put together these armies. I don't know about you guys.
No, I agree.
I like more choice than less.
Yeah,
I agree.
And a lot of gamers have ADD anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I realized I forgot to introduce myself because I'm so out of it. I'm on summer vacation now. So this is Chairborne because it's the name I get because of what happened last year. And I'm sure that I'm going to have it happen to me again because I'm not the most graceful participant in anything. So I will be helping Mitch out with running the Team Yankee tournament at Historicon. I think there are a handful of spots left. It is also possible that we have a couple of slots for walk-ons. And with that in mind, I have my beautifully fully painted West German army for anybody who would like to come and play a game. So if you are listening to this, and if you are going to Historicon and you are thinking about giving Team Yankee a try on Friday, July 13th, which is a really unfortunate day, but there it is. I'm sure you'll be lucky anyway. Then by all means use my army. I'll have a full list ready for you to go, and I even have a cool display board so you can tell everybody you made it yourself, and I won't tell them any different. I have been, Glenn, are you playing in the Early War National at Historicon or no?
No, just the Team Yankee.
Just the Team Yankee. So I got to play a tune-up tournament last weekend, 2 weekends ago, up at Kirwan's Game Store in Catskill. Played with Rich Meacher and Chris Johnson, my best sportsman arch nemesis, who is a better painter than me, who's going to sell his Japanese that won a painting award because he wants to paint something else. I don't understand. Chris Johnson. But
who's a two-time Canadian Nationals winner as well, back to back.
I feel like he's just going up there despite you guys.
Well, I think we're the easy fish.
It's interesting that the Nationals are early war, and given the comments that we're going to start to review in a few minutes that we got from Battlefront, so you should probably circle back and comment on that a little bit.
For sure. So just to let people know what I'm taking for the people that are curious about those kind of things, because I had to submit my list by July 2nd, and in typical student fashion, I did it at like 11 o'clock on July 2nd, so I'm not a very good role model for the high school kids I teach. So I'm taking Confident Trains New Zealand Commonwealth Rifle Company, which has got sticky bombs. So I've got 2 full rifle platoons with their garbage anti-tank rifle team that nobody cares about, and I refuse to model. Their standard command rifles, which are also sticky bomb equipped. I have a weapons platoon with the mortars, and then I have 2 Matilda 2s, a full battery of 25-pounders, and 3 of the 40-millimeter Bofors guns.
Wow.
If I'm holding reserves, that means that I just hold the Matildas and the HQ company in reserve, and that's my 40% on the nose. So I'd get to start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 full platoons on the board, including 7 guns that are more than capable of ripping tanks apart. I've found that in late war, at least, and I don't play a lot early, if I don't bring the equipment for infantry to assault tanks at top armor 2, I'm going to get bulldozed. So I just feel like I have to have gamut bomb armed infantry because I just don't know what else to do. But they've changed the stats in the planes so many times that it's hard for me to keep up with what actually has which stats. Like, they changed the rockets, I think, like 3 times. Where first it hits side, then it hits top, then they change the AT rating, and they change the fire. So we'll get into that too when we talk about like rule shifts and things like that. But I got to practice with a list similar to this. Unfortunately, like 5 people bailed at the last minute at the tournament for a variety of reasons, both legitimate and completely lame. And I'm not going to call anybody out, but they know exactly who they are. Tim Morrissey. So
there, Tom.
Yeah, so I'm just I'm a classy guy. So but we got to play a round robin. We had 4 people. I got 3 games. I had a lot of fun. I may be carpooling down with 2 of the people I played against if we can time this right, because I have to stay. I can't come until Thursday night because of a school obligation thing. I get to redesign curriculum for 4 days, which is as much fun as it sounds. So I've also been trying desperately to clear out my painting queue. I've still got the same airborne guys on my table that I've had for like weeks, but I made progress yesterday. And I have to finish painting the Matildas. Yeah, it's been 5 years. No, there's going to be a lengthy post about this as soon as they're done. And I think they will be done before Historicon. So I'll have the pictures and the post ready to go in my absence when I'm not here. I assume that Troy Troy Hill will be more than capable of posting the stuff when I'm not around. So with that said, I think we're caught up, but it's been a little while since we've had a chat. So Tom, tell us about the Firestorm Tunisia campaign, if you would.
Yeah, we just wrapped it up. It was ultimately a British victory. It ended up being 365 victory points for the British and 235 for the Germans. And before we even go much further into that, you got to thank Scott Grass and Kevin, the X's commander. Scott for putting this. He did a great job putting this whole thing together. We had a chance to converse on some ideas before launching, and he just did a fantastic job making this happen. I think we ended up with probably about 50 to 60 games. There were 5 turns, usually about 10 to 12 battles per turn. And honestly, the Axis players, they won tactically most of the time. I mean, by a significant number. The number of British wins are actually fairly minor. The problem was that the operational rules were set as they should be for the British to have more initiative. So generally, when the Germans were winning, they were just holding ground. So there wasn't a lot of opportunity for them to take the initiative and actually push forward. So they're kind of hamstrung in that effect. But because if it was just a straight up who won the most battles, the Germans were way ahead on 8-1s and 7-2s and just the mass number of wins. So I was kind of surprised when the 5th round was done. I thought that it was going to be much closer to a draw. I thought it was going to be about a little bit both teams being close to 300, and so it just the Germans were not able to punch through and move towards Bone. I thought there was a kind of a gap in the British line, but it was good setup. It was interesting with the 8th Army in the south and 1st Army up in the north, and Germans trying to rush back and forth between the two of them to figure out where the next main threat was. But you got to give it to the German players. They won on an individual game-by-game basis. It's just that the operational rules kind of made most of their wins simply holding ground instead of taking ground and being able to exploit and use initiative and so on. So it's a great experience. I'm hoping we can do some more here in the near future. I kind of like to think about trying to put together a kind of an East Front one to coincide with the release of the new East Front books, some sort of Stalingrad theme focus.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I think we get enough time to put that together. Good. I mean, it'll be late August, right, or September by the time we see the
I think so.
East Front stuff.
Yeah.
So that'd be a focus coming up. But anyways, if anybody's interested, you can go to No Dice, No Glory forum and go to the Firestorm Tunisia subforum, and in there you'll find 5 turns with dozens of great battle reports, great photos, just great effort from all who are involved. So really happy to have been part of that, and honored that Scott asked me to run the Allies.
Very cool. I also think I've seen a lot of recently, because I'm on a bunch of the different Facebook forums of the people building like the kind of Stalingrad type terrain.
Oh yeah.
So, and I've seen some really impressive community things. So it'll be exciting to do a campaign like that, because I think we'd get a bunch of really cool battle reports. I'd like to try to feature some. I know a friend of mine, Shane, and I are going to try to build a massive board. We have the whole sketch thing done, and we're going to probably start it after I get back from Historicon. He's trying to go, but we'll see if he can sneak out of work. It's a lot closer since it's Lancaster for me anyway. It's tougher when it's like a 9-hour ride down to Virginia. 4 hours to Lancaster is not too bad.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to go back to Virginia at some point. Hopefully it will. But
I like Fredericksburg. I really did. We always seem to get the hottest day of the year, but it is mid-July, so
yeah. I just like it because my brother lives there, so I got free room and board. I'm out there. So, but next year I'm out for Historicon also. My boss, I'm out this year because my boss had a hip replacement surgery, so I'm doing his job and my job for the next 30 some odd days until he comes back in. And then next year we have a major family reunion scheduled in July, so that's going to kind of put it out to at least 2 more years for me to show up.
Which of you guys is able to go to Fallen? I know that's like a long way away, but just curious.
I can.
I think I should be free.
Yeah. What city is it in?
Lancaster.
That's all Lancaster.
Okay. Yeah, I think I will make that a priority because of missing out on Historicon this year and next year. I don't typically do anything with HMGS East other than Historicon. But if it's going to be at least 2 years for one of those, I need to make a Fall In or Cold Wars, one or the other or both.
Oh, I've got good news for Matt Varnish. I haven't gotten any wedding invitations.
Oh, for Canadian Nationals?
For 4 years in a row, my friends decided that Labor Day weekend would be the best time to get married. And as a teacher who hasn't been paid since June, I can tell you, if you want a gift, it's not. Okay? You're going to get it. It's going to be late. So I think I actually get to carpool up with some of the Catskill guys. I might be able to, sleep in the street and then pull out my hobo army and fight you guys to a glorious defeat. So if I get to see you up in Ottawa, that'll be really exciting.
Well, if you're going to be there, from where I'm sitting right now, if I look to the right, I know there's no camera, but I can see the hotel where it's going to be at. I can walk to Nationals. Now, what's interesting for us is it's mid-war. Our tournament organizer is kind of, we're trying to get him to allow the new books. Now, they come out a week before mid-war Nationals. So it'd be really cool to have Iron Cross and Enemy at the Gates in play. But knowing him, he's going to say no, which really is a shame.
It's tight. It's tight, though. I can sympathize. Because if he has to review lists and he only has a week to do it.
No, he doesn't review lists. It's
okay, well then who cares?
It's his tournament, so it's tough to do.
Well, I hope I get to see you. I really do, because I think I got on my calendar.
I'll do Cold Wars for sure. I'm going to Cold Wars because I can't do Historicon this year because I'm going to be shipped out to Wisconsin.
We also have to get our doubles team of champions together again, where we take the most awful thing we can think of and then watch it somehow succeed. I'm totally on board for that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's dig into it. And I'm going to make a note for the listeners that the time is boop. Okay, 17 minutes. So let's dig in to all the information we've got about Battlefront's 5-year plan, which is how Iron Tom described it, which is a pretty solid description. So let's start with the stuff that Pete went over. And everybody's just going to take a look at the list of stuff that we've compiled and sort of, feel free to pluck out anything that stands out or something you want to bring up.
Well, let me explain the 5-year plan portion of it. They basically start talking about June 2019, and they talk about going out 4 years from there. So that's where that 5 years came from. And I think it's kind of important because there's always speculation when's the next version coming? Will they continue on? Is version 4 going to keep going forward? What changes will they make? But they pretty much told us that they're going to finish through late war. At least their claim is they're going to finish through late war and try to do it within 4 years. So we've got at least 5 years of playing the current version of the rules.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm fine with that. I'm looking at the list here. There's nothing that jumps out at me as to be really bad, and I'm notorious for being the glass half empty kind of person. The one thing that kind of sticks out to me is the early war stuff that they were talking about, how it'll probably come out as just an Osprey book, but they're saying that it's not big enough to get the full treatment and it's seen as a burden on retailers. And I get that in that it's not quote unquote as popular. And it's ironic that I'm saying this on July 4th. We're recording this on July 4th, but I hate to say it, but is it because Americans are such a big customer base for wargaming, and because America wasn't in early war? You know what I mean? Is that maybe why? Because, you look at early war armies, they're super colorful. You look at the French camo schemes, there's Polish armies, there's all sorts of wacky armies that are only in early war. And it's a shame that that they're not going to get the full treatment, but hopefully there's enough time to get them kind of, hopefully we can get some kind of movement on that to reverse that. But everything else, paratrooper books, there's Team Yankee 2.0 that's coming out, where I think the rules are kind of already out. I don't know why they're waiting a full year for the to finally get the rules put in. But I mean, I love seeing the oil war stuff. I love seeing the naval troops. There's just a ton of stuff I like, and just a couple things I don't.
I think one of the things that kind of frustrates me with regards to putting the books out again is, like, they had stated earlier that, like, oh, I have X amount of yards of books on my bookshelf. I don't want those to be obsolete. And there's a built-in solution to that Battlefront already has, which is the Forces of War lists, which I've spent quite a bit of money on, with the understanding or assumption that they would be updated automatically. And yet I have to remove redundant teams. I have to repoint certain aspects of it, or there are different elements of the armory that are not accurate, which is really troublesome because, you know, it doesn't really look great if you're playing even a casual game and you point to the stats and you're like, oh, well, but these aren't the stats, right? Like they came out with these new ones.
A long way in saying, well, here's the cards that I've got and here's the stats.
Yeah.
Like those work. It's when you're using the wacky late war stats, and I don't think they translate very well to version 4. Right?
No, and I think since I play mostly late war, I've had to do the haphazard thing, and it hasn't been the best. But like, I know that it's annoying for them to update it, and it's a small company, so they'd only have so much, manpower to devote to that. But I feel like they wouldn't need to release so many new books if they updated the lists that they had.
Well, they did mention that for mid-war, for the Hungarians and Romanians, they'd be digital only. So it appears to be some effort to put some more new stuff on the digital format. So that could help you out in that cause.
Yeah.
One thing about the early war there, Matt Burnish, it's I think it has a lot to do with the plastic kits. That there just may not be that much plastic stuff worthy in early war. Things that they could translate to other periods or get a lot of use out of. So I couldn't see him come out with plastic Samoas or some of these other T-28s and things like that. So, but I do think, I don't mind the Osprey approach at all. I like the Vietnam book. I like the Fate of the Nation book. I'm fine with it if it covers everything. I think they may need more than one early war book, though. I think they're going to need like a Blitzkrieg book and maybe a early war desert book, and who knows, maybe an early war Barbarossa book. But and I'd be happy to see all of those. But so I think it seems kind of bad when we say they're not going to get the full treatment. Well, I think we're going to have all the stuff that we have. I just don't think we're going to get plastic kits and the big surge for the merchant.
Maybe that's what they mean by the full treatment.
Well, that's a realistic, game company point of view, because how many people play early war on a regular basis, right? It's kind of like Fate of the Nation or Vietnam. It's, hey, once in a while, hey, let's get together and we'll do that.
Yeah, that's true.
But let's face it, really, it's about mid-war, late war, and Team Yankee. That seems to be the games I see 95% of the time.
What do you play in your neck of the woods, or Glenn? Like, what's prevalent?
Well, we're gamers. We want everything from a game company all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I guess the most popular period here is late. I wonder how many are going to show up for the Nationals, because I know that their numbers were relatively low for mid-war, but that was partially attributable to the fact that it was relatively new.
2 books.
It's 2 books, so people knew that there wasn't a lot of options. I think, I don't know. Like, I understand that they're rotating it, but I'm curious.
Yeah, last update I saw had some 20... low 20s, maybe 25 players for the early war tournament.
Wow.
Which is even smaller than we had for the mid-war nationals last year. I think we had 30 some there. So, it's definitely, again, it's not, it goes to what Glenn was just talking about. It's not one of the more popular periods for a lot of gamers. And also it's not really fully tweaked for version 4 yet. So they're still trying to, it's playable. I've played several early war games. It's okay. But I don't like doing that as much as I like doing mid-war or armies of late war, specifically for the reasons that you were just talking about there, Tom, with the the list issues and trying to keep stuff straight and redundant teams. I just like playing it straightforward, So unless you go mid-war or armies of late war right now, that's you're doing some sort of hybridization.
Well, and I'll say that I played in the last Nationals that was early war, and I did extremely well with my Soviet Strelkovy.
Nice.
Until they changed the rules for those, which is Phil has mentioned here, they seem overwhelming for early war. Because what have you got to, go against those guys that right now they have to be, totally devastated, and there's really no mechanism to do that.
Yeah, so some armies just literally don't have enough bullets.
Yeah, so for the uninitiated, let's read that rule for people. So they're gonna. It's called the hurrah rule, right? Big Soviet infantry have a 4+ save, and they hit on 4s in an assault. If they can get into contact, Strelk is a 3+ to hit, but has a 4+ save. To balance this, they can assault 6 inches, and they have the better hit and assault rating. While you have a commissar, Soviets have a separate column rating, like with the Italians rolling up to the elite. So that's a huge change, and I don't know what you think the impact of that might be. So why don't you get into that a little bit more, Matt?
Wow. It's going to be one of those things where until we see it on the table, like we need to know exactly how many points these things are going to be before we can, because just seeing the rule here is fine and dandy, but we don't know what the points are going to be. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's going to be make or break. And I don't play Strelkovy, so maybe Glenn has more insight as to how this looks. But just looking here, it seems characterful where there's a command card with the commissar where he lets an MG unit shoot at infantry to get them moving, and the more hits they get, the faster they move. I kind of like that. Like it's very enemy at the gates, like cinematic wise. Now, you know what I mean? I'm sure lots of people are going to use that just for the fun of it, but I mean, it's an interesting idea. I like that they're lowering the save to mimic them just, charging across the open thing, yelling and all that. Like it's characterful. I don't know how it's going to.
But remember, they have that 4+ save when they're defending as well. So everything is geared towards the assault. But like Glenn was saying, if they're dug in, how are you gonna kill them? How are you gonna whittle them down quick enough with all the even with the 4+ save, because they're not coming at you then.
Yeah.
Maybe they will.
Well, I think that 6-inch range for assault, that doesn't help the problem. That just makes it worse.
Yeah.
How does it make it worse with the 6-inch assault?
What I'm saying is that I assume what he's talking about is you count back 6 inches for what's allowed to count to be in the assault.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's not just like, because they're a blob, they don't just have the first 2 lines of attack, which is usually all you can count. You're saying you can go back further than, I don't know, maybe I'm reading it wrong.
Yeah, I think this means their assault move is 6 inches, so there still would just count those 2 lines.
Oh, I see.
They have the potential to bring a lot more folks in because.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
It's not so much the first round of hitting; it's that second round. You get 6 inches to pull more people in, whereas other armies only have the 4 inches. So I think, again, without having seen it played, I think that 6-inch rule really will help beyond round 1 is where I think that'll really come into play because you just get more and more dudes thrown in.
Well, I'd like to play test it. I know we don't know the exact points, but I imagine if we just use current mid-war points and just try the rules, it probably won't be horribly off because it doesn't sound like they're doing all these changes to change the ratio of points. I mean, they could, and I'm sure they'll be different to some extent, but I think there's enough for us to get out there and give it a shot or two before late August to see how it works.
Yeah, it's true.
So I'm trying to read this and figure out what it's talking about, but the command cards for the KVs, like what?
Oh, yeah.
What are these rules? Because
Actually, I kind of like that.
Yeah.
I wonder how much they're going to cost.
Vehicles still shoot.
Yeah, it's a Japanese rule where they still fire, and enemies near KVs re-roll last stand checks.
For Stalin.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's so cool. Yeah.
It's cinematic.
Wonderful, right?
It's really cinematic. It's going to make for some really fun games. I think I don't know how it's going to work in a tournament setting, but in terms of just like a game with your friend, I think it could be a blast because I really like, for example, the Fog of War cards. I think that like they made games that I was using to teach new kids how to play a lot of fun because they added this unpredictability to the game, and it gave everybody a better chance to win. Rules like that I don't think are going to have a huge impact. Like the unkillable thing makes it just really cinematic and fun. So
cool. I also like that they're keeping smaller options. So it used to be a lot of complaints from Soviet players that, well, not all the Soviet formations were, boneheads. Some of them got to be more or less veteran status. They, especially the ones that remained after the others had been traded out. So they're leaving that option. So they'll have smaller formations. And if you think in terms of like Team Yankee, where you take 3 T-55s, three platoons of 3 in the headquarters, so you get that multiple small unit, you might have a chance to do that now with some more elite Russian infantry. So that'll be kind of cool. And who knows what they can do with guard status.
I'm wondering if it's not.
Well, they've already reflected that sort of in the rules now, like no hen and chicks for the guards, things like that. But
that's true. Yeah.
I don't think they want to. I think they want to avoid making them super soldiers.
Yeah, remind me what the version for hen and chicks rule is.
So you're +1 to hit everything.
Okay.
Flat. Just you're +1 to hit everything, which is like it's not. Before it was like a choice. Hen and chicks. Well, if I move, they take a penalty or whatever. Now it's just you're +1 to hit everything, unless you take IS-2s or other elite formations.
It's whether you moved or not. It's just +1.
Yeah,
it's like mid-war stabilizers where they're always on.
That's just a dumb. My personal view is that's a dumb way to do it. At least people complained about hen and chicks before, but there were options that made it a gamer's choice.
Yeah.
But with the hen and chicks now, you can use for a straight up move, it's going to apply. But when it comes to like moving out of terrain or moving up on a crest, you can always go for a blitz. And if you make it, great. You move up 4 inches, you don't count as moving, you get 4 rate of fire, and thus no hen and chucks. And then and if you don't make it, fine, wait till next turn, try it again.
But if it's always on, it's always on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and speaking of the Tunisia campaign, one of the other things that Pete mentioned was they're not going to do any more of those boxed Firestorm campaigns like Bagration or Market Garden. So I imagine the price of those on eBay is going to go up because I have my Market Garden one. It's a great standalone game. I love that thing.
It's good.
I'm not surprised, but
no, it makes sense. But it's a bummer because they're really well done. So.
Well, the community has shown, Jokal Gillison, I'm probably butchering that name, out in Iceland. He produced several Firestorm modules.
Those are the best. Those are really good.
We've done several here. We did one on WWPD and now one here. So the community doesn't need the company to produce those for them. Entities will make those happen, so they can focus on other things. I mean, I'd love to see them. I like them. I'd buy them if they came out with them, but we're getting them one way or the other anyways, and it's kind of nice that the community is kind of taking the lead on that, and then let's Battlefront maybe work on some other stuff. Yeah,
for sure. I also see that we are now basically the forum as far as I can tell, because they're not coming back. I think that they refer players to us? I believe they did.
Yeah, Pete did. He did specifically mention us, which was, thanks for the plug, Pete. And
I guess I got to tone down my vitriol against captured cards.
Yeah. Did you see my post today there, Dennis? Somebody in the paint and the Flames of War painting blog, somebody put in a captured German 6-pounders and captured German 25-pounders, and I said, "Great models. Hope Dennis doesn't see them."
Okay, I'll comment on them tonight.
Yeah, they're there, but they are well done. They do look good. So at least you can't complain that they're just using the British models and throwing in with British crews thrown in the German ranks. At least they properly crewed them.
They stole their uniforms too. It's like no.
Yeah, Vandenberg's. But and they did mention they're going to try to increase community interaction. So they are pretty busy on Facebook. I was surprised. I got that whole March lessons from the front thing with the not being able to shoot units out of command. That was kind of a sore point with me. So I got on their little snipey attitude, and Phil Yates responded right back. I'm like, whoa. Oh, okay. didn't expect that, but he went back and forth a couple times. I don't think I managed to change his mind one bit, but whatever. I gave it a good college try. But
That's
it was
right.
nice to have him respond. And then I think what they mean by community contact, I think we're going to probably see more of what we just saw. They'll probably be at Historicon with a further update. We did have Pete and John Paul come out to Adepticon in March.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to probably just by a little bit more presence, getting out and meeting people and having seminars like we saw. And Glenn will remember they did that at Historicon last year.
Yeah, I think that was the first time I ever saw Pete come to anything.
Yeah.
And
So
very, very open when he was there.
Oh, yeah, he was great.
Answers.
He was super friendly.
I keep missing these good Historicons or these good conventions due to me being a dirty foreigner.
Yeah.
So I think they're making, without the forum, pushing everywhere else they can. And I totally get the forum issue. It's just particularly for new players. I mean, that's the whole thing. You get people excited, like, I just found this really cool World War II game or this really cool, World War III game, whatever the case may be. And then you come to the forums and like, holy cow, what have I got myself into?
You get shot down by people who haven't played the game.
What bothers me about not having the forums is just rule clarifications.
Yeah.
Like I found a mistake with the Jordanian machine gun nests in what I think is a mistake, but I have no way to communicate with them and say, hey, did you make a mistake here? Because we know mistakes happen.
Well, what's the
there were a lot
mistake?
in the Vietnam book.
What's the mistake? If you don't mind me asking.
Do we lose?
No.
No, he's there.
Glenn, what was wrong with the Jordanian machine gun nest?
They say the Jordanians took a lot of 50 cals and put them in machine gun nests, but then the stats for it are actually for a 7.62 machine gun. In other words, rate of fire 6 AT2. So it's like, well, is it 50 cal? Should it be a 50 cal rating or?
Yeah, the fluff and the stats don't match.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One thing that is also came out of the game day discussion was that the lessons from the front. So basically, they're very active on Facebook, but if you're not on Facebook, that doesn't help you very much. So I guess to help compensate for that, they're going to do more frequent pushes from lessons from the front and FM 101 and Our Man of Saigon and whatever the Fate of the Nation thing, the Tel Aviv News or whatever the heck they call it that. So those hopefully we'll see some clarifications and things pushed out in print. And honestly, as a tournament organizer, I'm not going off of Facebook, even if I saw Phil say something. Until it's in print that I can expect everybody knows, because you got to have one standard, and the standard has to be lessons from the front. So, there needs to be a lesson for the front for equivalent for Fate of the Nation. And, that when that comes out, hopefully the machine gun nest thing is. So if you're not on Facebook and you have questions, then the best recommendation I can give is ask someone who is to forward your question, because they do seem fairly responsive on these issues, and then look out for the next lessons up front to see if they get rolled up into it.
Yeah.
Well, discontinuing the forum does have one big benefit for tournament organizers. No longer can some player come up at a tournament and say, "Oh, but Phil said on the forum," and that was a nightmare for TOs. I know.
Yeah, they'll probably try to do the same thing about Facebook, but I'm not having it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, hey, lessons from the front is the push. That's the info push we get. That's what we go by. So great that they decided something yesterday, but until it's in print, it's not applicable to this tournament. And normally I'll say, we'll use lessons up front as of this date. So even if there's a recent one like a day or two before, it won't be in play.
I will say this about the more missions packet that came out, which is like I've had time to play a lot of games with the revised objective rules, where you have to be within 4 inches, and it discourages the feeding the objective with the one team nonsense. I haven't really fought a lot of draws. It's been very rare that a game is timed out. People play more aggressively. They play to a conclusion. I think that rule change solved a lot of issues that I had with the game, at least in terms of issues with competitive play. I like that a lot.
It's just too bad they could not have come with that under version 3. I mean, it took version 4 to come up with that rule, but that would have been just perfect to add even earlier. I mean, because we had the same situation before too, with timeouts and draws and so on. So I do like that.
One thing else that I'll say to kind of get back to their community outreach and the plan that they're putting together is I get the feeling that in the areas where you guys are, there is a like livelier, friendly local gaming store like community because it's been dying up in New England, with the exception of like there's a great store in Boston. And I think my friend Jerry Lane, and the crew is over there, but that's pretty far out for me. That's like an hour and a half, 2 hours. Black Moon is up in northern New Hampshire. That's like a 3.5 hour ride. I'm going to go to that tournament because I want to see Joey and Jeff. But I'm going to I don't want to pay for the hotel. So I'm going to drive 3 hours at 5 a.m, play the tournament, then drive 3 hours back. And I'm fine doing that because I always have a fun game, but not a bad game with those guys. But there's Gamers Gambit down the road from me, which doesn't carry it. And then there's Hobbytown, who carries it, but they really haven't had an influx of new players for a very long time, despite my best efforts to kind of recruit and teach new people. So I feel like they've had a lot of missteps when it comes to positive interactions or encouragement with some of these stores. So, for example, when they have a sale, they would do themselves great credit if some of these sales would be something where I could order it and still get the sale price through my game store, right? Because that would get them the money. Or if they made arrangements for the discounts to always be carried through to the store, which I feel like doesn't always follow through. They did update the prices and they marked them down, which you have to give them a lot of credit for. Because I cannot think of another gaming company that lowered its costs and then actually passed those lowered costs on. That's rare.
I've heard two of my local gaming stores here in the DC area both complain about this 25% off Fate of the Nation sale online because they go, because I was part owner in a game store before. You can't discount stuff 25% and keep the doors open. No. So there shouldn't be that rivalry, right? It should, like you said, that if they pass along their savings to the game store and let them sell it at a discount, that's great. But
the discounts too, though, are not the new sets, right?
No.
So you got the new Fate of Nation stuff coming out, but we're talking about older Fate of the Nation stuff, which the stores couldn't have got anyways, as I understand it now. I think the stores can only get the box sets; they can't order individual blisters anymore.
No, but they have their old stock.
Oh, okay.
So why is somebody going to buy their old stock if they can get it cheaper direct from Battlefront?
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. Well, I think BF's intention from the beginning of version 4 was to try to simplify the rules, pull in new players, because I think all 4 of us here have a ton of armies. I think I remember just to cite a horrifying and embarrassing.
But still not enough.
Oh, of course, it's never enough. To cite an embarrassing statistic, back in 2011, my apartment burned down, but I was insured, and I had to file an insurance claim, and I had to figure out how much all this stuff was worth. Value? Yes. And I had to figure out how much it would cost to have it painted to a standard. And I had pictures of everything because I take pictures of stuff. And that was a payout. That was quite a payout. I think that was more than our clothes. It was.
Could you have bought a motorcycle used with the money?
Yeah, I've had the same problem with movers. I'm trying to insure my move. And they go, wait, it's all this little box here is worth $1,000.
You're like, oh yeah,
yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Maybe not on eBay, but it is if I have to get it professionally fixed. So, yeah, but I think that the new players that I've seen mostly are for Team Yankee. I see new players for the more modern stuff as opposed to new players jumping into World War II. I don't know about you guys.
No, you're right. Team Yankee is carrying BF right now. That's been the majority of activity that I've seen. People still kind of hanging back from V4 until they see some fixes or more stuff.
Well, I did some. I was writing an article or preparing to write an article because I was trying to track at least what's going on tournament wise. So if you go to Battle Rankings, you can download the stuff. Mm-hmm. So now this doesn't capture everything. This just captures reported tournaments. But I took the average of fiscal year 2014 to 17, and then I compared that to fiscal year 18. So, and I had to use the period from October to May. So the average for those previous 4 years was 743 tournaments. Of course, those are almost all, they'd be entirely Flames of War. and no Team Yankee really before tournament-wise. And right now, from October to May of this year, we've had 743. So we're down 35%. That's 743, correction. 1,135 annual tournament participants, slots filled, if you will. And this year, October to May, 743. So that's down by 35%. But the number of events is pretty close. Typically, those previous 4 years, they had about 63.75 events during those same months, spread out over those same months. This year, it's been 56. So the number of events are down by 12%. And that's just Flames of War. So then when you go to Team Yankee, which I only have information for this last fiscal year, there have been 25 events and 262 players. So in terms of tournament representation, Team Yankee has got about half as much as Flames of War. And together, if you put them to, like say you add the Team Yankee in, then you have only 11% drop in tournament participation for this year, October to May, as opposed to the average of the 4 years prior. And the number of events is actually up by 27%. So I think the trend is we're seeing same number of events, and in fact slightly more when you combine Team Yankee and Flames of War, but they're smaller. Like Nationals this year for early war, you're not getting the big 50-player events anymore. You're topping out at about 20 to 30, and and you've seen a lot of 12-player, 16-player events, local regionals, whatever. So, but it was just that. I'll finish this up in October after the full fiscal year. We'll see how things compare, but basically, you can look at it. Tournament participation wise, Team Yankee is about a third of the total, if you will. And then
I wonder if how you said there's a drop in V4 or sorry, in
and the play. Flames participation may improve once the Soviet book comes out. Right now, that's a major faction that's left out, really.
The new late war next summer.
Yeah.
When they get into true late war version 4, if you will. So, so we'll see. But we always get this big thing. Well, how much are things down? I don't really think tournaments are a good representation, because I would agree. I play a lot of Flames of War tournaments. I don't play Flames of War locally at all. I just my last couple of games were Fate of a Nation. Before that, a couple of Team Yankee ones. So it tends to be more of the modern stuff, just for the fun local games, pick up games with my buddies. And then Flames of War for me has just been relegated to pretty much just tournaments. And then I only really play and the campaign, the games I got in for that. Forgot the campaign games, but there has to be a specific purpose that drives me to play Flames of War right now. If I'm just like, my buddy came over today, Charles Christie, and he's like, "Hey, what do you want to play?" He's like, "Yeah, I want to do some more Fate of the Nation." Okay, let's see how bad the Egyptians can stomp the Israelis this time. Badly. So, there you go. So we'll see how that all pans out. But I'll do I'll do a wrap up in October too, for the whole year. See how it compares.
Well, I think one of the reasons that I think I talk about the tournaments is because those are one of the best places for me to go to get a game, and it's less about like, oh, I want to be super competitive, I want to win something, and it's more like, I want a good game, and I want to maximize the time I get to actually play, and use the stuff that I painted and put on the table. So like when I bring up the concerns about, oh, it's hard to get new people in, or the community seems to be taking a break to a degree, it's always just a bummer over a lack of opponents and a lack of like opportunity. But there's other games. And I like the people in my community are starting to do bolt action now. I have an army ready to go to get painted. I'm going to do that. I know that the new Star Wars game, Legion, that's a big one here. So
new 40K
and the 40K and the new Sigmar stuff is really making a push. So I think Flames got a big boost a couple of years back when 40K got really bad. We had a lot of like refugees from that rule set.
And their players got older.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, they did.
So it's a tough time. Yeah, I got to say, there's not a whole lot. There's no, locally for me, there's no new players, flat out. It's just me and a couple of my buddies, and we're a fraction of the amount of folks we did have. We have a lot of great gaming, a lot of tournaments still in our region to travel to, but you just don't see anything new. The only thing that's historical that's got any momentum locally is bolt action. And that's why I've been playing a lot of it. My brother got into it, so I want to be able to game with my brother. That's what's going on locally. So it's not my preference. It's okay. I can enjoy myself with it, but that's what's happening here locally. And until I get a chance to travel off to events, like this weekend, I'm going to Cincinnati to Game Time Miniatures to play in a mid-war event. That'll probably be the last time I play version 4 World War II this summer.
Mm-hmm.
Being the Historicon's out.
Yeah.
For me. Yeah. Cool. Well, should we move on to some of the modern stuff from the update?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting news, actually.
Yep. I guess the big thing is the oil wars. So the Iran-Iraq war and Israelis, even Makavas. Sounds pretty cool.
That was surprising.
Yeah, well, a lot of people have been waiting for them to progress the timeline. And so it sounds like both are going to progress the timeline to like 88 or something like that, and come out with, the Bradleys, the Apaches, Challengers for the Brits, but then also leap forward to 1990 or so. So I think a lot of guys will get excited about that because they've been kind of on the edge about some of the stuff they know was around in the late 80s, but it's not in the game yet.
Yeah, definitely so.
Now, they talked about, not to take a detour from the new stuff, but when they're rebalancing the late war book with the new Armies of Late War that comes out in June of 2019, next year, they talked about the fact that the later in the war something is, the more points it's going to be, so that it would make it possible for you to play essentially a late war game, because the later war equipment is just better. And we started to see that as version 3 was kind of getting stretched. Are they going to do something similar to that, do we think, for the Team Yankee late war, where they'll just make it more points?
Well, they did not for Fate of the Nation. They just kind of put everything in there for the 67 and the 73 war. If you read the fluff, it'll tell you what was available in one period or the other, but there's nothing in there saying, like, here's a 73 list and here's a 67 list.
Right.
Yeah. You kind of have to use your own deductive reasoning to, some research to decide how to do that. Although on our forum, Mike Finglofen, as about saying that, his handle on our forum is Finglofen. He's got an excellent link to his blog site where he's got a matrix to show you what exact equipment goes in which period.
Oh, that's awesome. Did you pin that post?
Yeah.
You should pin that post because I want to go check that out.
I think it might be. I pinned his painting guide. So.
I've seen that painting guide. It's really good. Yeah. Okay.
He does great stuff. So shout out to him and his helping to provide some guidance to Fate of the Nation players.
Yeah, but I don't think you're going to have that problem with the 80s, the mid-war Team Yankee, because everything really was still within a very near, like 5-year range that stuff came out, and I think it's all fairly competitive. Yeah,
and nothing gets retired from the 80s. When I came in as a lieutenant in 1990, we still had the 4th Infantry Division up in Fort Carson at the time with M60s. Korea still had M60s, and heck, during Desert Storm, the regular active duty Marine Corps guys had M60s, M60A1s with reactive armor added onto them. But so that kit sticks around. And then you look at the Iraqis up until 1990, they're still using the 1950 stuff. So the longevity of the equipment gets much more extended. So stuff doesn't really go away. It kind of lingers on for decades.
He was
and smart players can use even if you want to call it the second grade equipment, to still win, because the points are, make it that you're going to have 2 or 3 times as many tanks as the West German guy, let's say, and you can kill anything with a side shot. So it's very balanced.
Yeah, you've already seen Chris Jackson do well with East Germans running T-55s. So there's, that's
and Pete Zurski.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and that's basically 1960s technology, right? That's being used in 1985 still effectively.
Yeah. So. I think it just points to the points are pretty well balanced for Team Yankee.
Well,
you might argue that about the latest book for Fate of the Nation.
Yeah, I don't know about those Milan teams. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing how. In fact, I'm probably just going to start playing using the new Fate of the Nation rules because at least in our local games, I think our guys, a lot of guys I play with here, don't go to tournaments quite as much. The guys I play Team Yankee with, so they're probably a little more open to experimenting and get some stuff in there. Maybe try some of the revised point stuff that. Who was the guy? Eric, Underground Warren. he's got that revised point scale on our that he's been experimenting with. He's been posting stuff on that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Eric's a good friend of mine from Texas. He really does get in and think about this stuff, and I think it's definitely worth a try. Although part of the problem is you just have to understand the rules and how to deal with them. So, for example, if anti-tank teams are bothering you, hey, guess what? If that platoon is pinned down, they can't shoot their anti-tank weapons or their anti-aircraft weapons.
Yeah. So I wish them luck, though. I mean, I'd like to see a little bit more. I'd love to get 31 T-72s on the table. I have 31 T-72s, but it's not a feasible practical formation right now. So I'd love to see them switch, the heading of the course heading here. But we'll see. We'll see how they repeat bombardments and some of those other things help them out.
Well, I'm curious if this helps me get more Gepards on the table. I think that's really what needs to happen. Gepards are too expensive.
Your point leads into they announced version 2 of Team Yankee.
They did.
Next year in October.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are looking forward to that.
That's 2019, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that should be October of this year, like just a book.
I agree.
Why it's another year.
It'd be nice if they at least put it out like as a PDF or something. I mean, I'd still buy the book later. But
I don't think there's anything wrong with a TO just saying, hey, you know what? We're going to play Team Yankee, but it's going to be the 40% points for the reserves, and we're using the morale rules from every other game. There's nothing wrong with that, right? I don't think. Right now.
Well, and the artillery rules, right? I think that.
Oh yes, and the
artillery rules you need. I think I'm going to be doing, because most of the games we play for Team Yankee are not tournament related up here. It's just like we're having a fun game, and if that's the case, I think I just more rather play version 4.
And if you can get the information out, people so long as they know what they're signing up for, that this hey, this is what we're doing. If you don't like it, we'll see you next year when it is the official rule. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. We should put a plug in here for the Polish book coming out, written by Mitch himself.
That's right.
Yeah.
I didn't know Mitch wrote that.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
Is it Polish and Czech?
Out this fall.
It says coming out October this year.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and they'll have T-62s and that's one nice thing. It seems like the strategic planning of how these books align and how the things come out. So we just got the T-62s for the Arabs and Arab nations and Fate of the Nation, and already they're expanding their use into Europe. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
I do like the cross-pollination there.
It sure makes it good for the plastic kits too.
Yeah, right.
It does. Yeah.
Maximize use of those.
How are we on time?
We are just at an hour now.
So beautiful. Maybe we should take a quick breather.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so we'll take a break.
While the boys head off to refresh their beer, don't forget to head over to www.nodicenoGlory.com and sign up for our forums, where you can find discussions on lists, tactics, rules, and all the other fun stuff that goes along with our beloved wargaming hobby. Well, time to hand it back over to the boys.
And we are back to cover the last little bit, because there's a ton of news here. So let's talk about their plan for late war, because we've alluded to it earlier on, and we've kind of talked around it, but we haven't directly discussed it. So let's hit it.
Yeah. Well, I guess the first thing they'll come out with is the 2 paratrooper books. So this is a kind of a new, surprise, I guess. So we were told a long time ago there would be paratrooper books, but there was always talked to in context of them being mid-war paratrooper books. But what these 2 paratrooper books are going to be, Fallschirmjäger, Diving Eagles, I guess, and whatever they call the U.S. paratrooper one, they're going to be actually late war and mid-war both. And they're going to come with, they're going to be geared in the book towards the late war, the 100-point system. Mm-hmm. And they're going to have cards to go with the 1,500 point system, which will cover you for the next year or so. So when you're playing with the existing V3 list and V4, it'll be compatible with that. But they'll also have the cards already for going into the 100 point system when they switch over to that in June 2019. So I thought that was pretty cool. I don't know. We haven't seen too many Battlefront products that had multi-period utility, and we're already leaning forward to the next thing. So that was kind of a shock to me.
Well, as a British player, I'm bummed that their book follows after Normandy, but that's just me being a spaz. I think, I mean, how many years have I spent painting these? Well, I guess
you may be done by then.
they're not done.
Yeah, you can't complain until they're done.
Look, okay. Let's make a deal. Let's make a bet, Dennis. Okay, if I don't have them done with pictures and a full post by the end of July, what am I getting you when I go up to Canadian Nationals?
I don't know.
To buy you dinner?
You could buy me dinner, yeah.
Buy you a beer? Okay. If I finish them, what do I want? I think I want
to. How you guarantee you win this?
I want a Canadian flag. Like, it doesn't matter what size it is. So you can give me like an adorable little mini Canadian flag.
Oh no, it'll be epic.
You can give me the epic flag.
Do you want a World War II Canadian flag?
Oh my god, that would be awesome if you could find one. I'll hang it in my classroom. I'll take a picture of it. I'll post it.
There you go, and everybody can say, "Oh, what's that? Is that the British flag in the corner?" You're like, "No."
I'll be like, "No."
Dennis, you know how you guarantee you win this?
What's that?
You send him a whole bunch of stuff like just prior to the deadline, so he has a whole bunch of new stuff.
Oh,
hey,
another box set of infantry.
Tom,
here's your fifth company.
I found this pile of infantry in my attic. Yeah. It's part of the deal. Yeah. Get it done.
Yeah. I hope you like Napoleonic infantry. Here's some Cossacks.
Oh, good lord!
Some Prussian.
All right, so you'll buy me a beer. I will buy you a beer and dinner if I fail.
The past few years at Canadian Nationals, I've paid for like everybody's meals. Well, not everybody, but like a good 10, 12 people. So that's usually I've done that in the last couple of years there. So
all right, so maybe the tables will turn if my laziness comes through. Because
perhaps we'll see. I really hope you can make it.
Oh no, it's on my calendar. Barring catastrophe, I'm going to come.
I was debating not going. Originally, the rules
were
really stupid. It was please provide 3 separate 71-point lists for mid-war. We're like, again, that got sorted out, but now we're trying to get the new books in. I want us to be the first tournament that has them.
Yeah, great.
So what is the point total? Is it 100?
71.
It's 71. I want 100 so I can bring Churchills. All the Churchills.
You still bring Churchills, but you'll get destroyed.
Yeah.
They are. I did not find them very good.
I have taken some names of those suckers. In one game I played up in Maine at Huzzah, I think I was down to 2 Churchill units, which assaulted into 4 platoons, murdered all of them.
And wrecked face.
The only thing that stopped me was that he was able to kill my core stuff. So I was literally down to my last 2 tanks. That was the only thing left on the table. But I'd killed everything else of his. It was a bloodbath. I think I figured out how to use them. But I haven't faced your Italians with them. And I imagine that might be too many targets for them to handle. So, they're certainly not ideal in every situation.
I don't have very much that can hit them. So.
Yeah, but with the reserve rules, they're just too expensive to keep on. So I have to wait for them to come on, and then it's a big pain in the butt. Anyway, they're going to rebalance everything with the new armies of late war. This is another version of this book.
And I love the date, too. You see when they're doing it?
June 6, 2019.
Yeah. So kicking off Normandy.
And they're going to do everything to the 100-point system. Yeah. So,
So basically, you have until June 6th, 2019 to use your version 3 books. So that's what it comes down to.
And then they said they're going to follow that with specific theater books, about 2 or 3 per year. And what do they say is first?
Cool. I get to buy my 4th version of Normandy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is like a suggestion. I don't know. So Normandy first.
Well, one thing you can do is not, well, I don't know. Like when they did the Armies Late War, I didn't buy the Armies Late War book at all. I
bought cards.
Yeah, about card decks. So it'll be interesting to see if they come out with card sets like that. You may be able to get by without the books, just getting the cards, although they're a little harder to use. The books are funner to read and look through. But we'll see what they do with it. But yeah, you're right. It'd be like the 4th iteration.
If you don't already have like 2 or 3 Normandy books.
One thing to note is in June 6, 2019 will be the 75th anniversary of D-Day.
That's right.
Oh, cool.
35.
I know it was the 75th.
Yeah, Dennis, you were saying that if you don't already have 2 or 3 of those books. Like, yeah, I think how many do I have?
Yeah, the new Normandy book. Well, I think there was 4 total. I've gotten rid of like all my old version 3 books. I've only kept 2.
Okay.
I've got
An Atlantic Wall from my 21st Panzer, and I've got the Road to Rome, I think it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
They did the first one of those small books, right? Those little mini books like Hedgerow, or whatever.
Just Monty's Meat Grinder.
Yeah, Monty's Meat Grinder, those guys, yeah. And then they did the first compilation. So that was
Earth
like
and
the
Steel.
second set. And then they did a third compilation, where they
Fortress
repeated it up. Yeah.
Yeah, I have all of those.
My 21st Panzer have gone through the same set of rules. Like,
What else we got for late war? So let's talk terrain, because I think they mentioned, I think the coolest thing, and my friend Shane mentioned that he's looking forward to this, and we might employ some of this instead of scratch building it, because I don't know that I have that kind of patience in late July. Modular plastic multi-level ruined building kits.
yeah.
So
Scott,
that's a
did you
first
guys
for them.
did you see the images of them?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. I wasn't really that horribly impressed with them. I don't know why. Maybe they're just too static, generic-y looking. As compared to like a JR Miniatures and some of their Rebel sets.
Maybe they're supposed to be generic, and then you just kind of fill in the filler yourself, or hopefully it's modular, so you don't have the exact same 3 corners everywhere on every street corner. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They can be built in different configurations. I remember from listening to the actual webcast they did, the YouTube clip that they put up there was about an hour long. They did say they can be combined and built in different formations. So you can make different shape buildings. They're not all just going to be, a square building. They could be, an L-shaped building or a T-shaped building or whatever you want. So.
Well, it's funny. I think the only other company that came out with like an extensive line of like Stalingrad destroyed was like JR Miniatures, right? They used to have those big diesel resin ones, like the train station.
Yeah.
They had a factory. They had a grain silo one. But they're out of print, right? They don't make those anymore.
They're too expensive.
They were too expensive.
I think the guy is still going. I don't know if he's just sells stuff on eBay. He changed the name, like Novus or something like that. So I think if you look under Novus, Novus, and like Novus Terrain, I think that's basically the original JR Miniatures.
Okay.
And so he's got some newer stuff out, I think, but he didn't have the massive pieces like the Reichstag and the Tractor Works and those kind of things. And I've got a few of those. I'm gonna have to start getting them out and getting them. I mean, I've had them for years.
That Reichstag is amazing.
Oh, it's beautiful.
There's so many rooms in there. It's great.
We had the Monte Cassino model and some really interesting pieces.
Speaking of terrain, this is another thing I'm going to try to get done, but I don't know how successful I'll be. So I'm selling a ton of hills at Historicon. So if you want a hill, come on down. I have winter ones, spring ones, and desert ones. But I got the technique for them down. It takes like 3 weeks to paint them. But once they're done, I'm gonna make a big one, really tall, and I'm gonna slice it so it opens up. So for Nam, I'm going to build like the tunnel network where you can open the hill and see into it. I don't know how playable it'll be, but it's going to look awesome. So I'm going to post like a in progress.
History class.
Oh yeah. That's, like I have one of our former teachers actually, like he flew in Vietnam and he's retired now, but he comes and he does a talk and he has pictures of the tunnels. He got to go into some of them. He's a fascinating dude. And, it's just really that's some inspiration right there to get some of that stuff done. And I'm painting up all my Pavin guys because I want to make the world safe for communism.
Hey, did you see they're going to have another mat? Hopefully,
yes.
Now that they have the new one out, one that's going to be I guess city and on one side, and then kind of I guess step grasslands
on the other side.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
Cool. Most of the mats that I use are the cigar box mats, which I really like because if you want to, you can put terrain under them. They're like this nice fabric, but they have such beautiful printing on them, and I think usually it's like $60. So I have like 4 of them, but the one that I haven't gotten yet because I didn't feel the scale was quite right or it was too restrictive is an urban rubble mat. And so I'm really curious. I think they have a picture of their Stalingrad city map, but I would probably buy that because that's one of the few things I don't have in my giant collection of miscellaneous terrain.
Yeah, I've got buildings that I've never painted, JR miniature stuff. I mean, I have enough stuff to put together a decent Stalingrad board, and I guess now I have to do it. And so getting something like this, although I think I might be a little interested in the JR miniatures. I just like the fact that the cigar box mats. They were at NashCon, and I just like them because they're light. They're just easy to use and roll up and throw in the corner or whatever you want, and they don't wrinkle. So
they're really eye-catching. Somebody who walks past and sees the terrain that I have with that on it. The other thing that I'll give a plug for, because I thought it was really cool, was I think they're called Adventure Time, which is they do like forests, and he does. I hope he's still around, but they do like a solid resin plate with spaces in it for magnets. And I have all my trees that are magnetized, so you can clip them into the forest. And he also sells kits that have like rocks and grasses, so you can sort of create little clearings inside the woods, and they're different varying sizes. And they work for 15 or 28 because they're a good scale. So I have like 2 sets of those I bought up in Maine like 2 years ago. You have to paint them, but I love painting terrain, so I didn't care. But I like Battlefront's stuff. I feel like it hits a good mix of affordability and detail, particularly with their painted kits. I wish I'd gotten in on the bigger housing subscription, but I didn't bother. I only got like 2 things. I got like a storefront and a bell tower. That's it.
I got tons of their stuff, but mostly because it gave me something I could buy from my local game stores. Throw some money at them without having to add something to my painting queue.
Yeah, for sure.
And hey, did you guys see about the Great War? I don't know. Do you guys play Great War?
I don't have a Great War Army. I know Mitch is a big fan.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. I remember him doing a bunch. I've got a German and a British army, and I'm kind of interested because these morale rules and the artillery rules, I'm going to be very interested to see how that plays out. So for the listeners, Great War is going to be Great War is going to be an Osprey, and it's going to include Belgium. So I guess does that not imply early war, Great War?
Yeah,
because the Belgians get knocked out pretty quick, and then kind of pretty much were subjugated after the first month or two, or whatever you want to call it, or occupied. So, and then they also talk about cavalry and armored cars being added in. So again, sounds like some very early Great War kind of maneuver phase before they get to the trench portion. But you think about it, Great War is all about artillery bombardments and machine guns. So, how is the repeat bombardment rule going to affect that, and how is the new morale rules going to affect these these waves of charges across open ground? So I'm kind of curious, I guess how or if the version 4 rules will actually work for Great War, because it was played on a smaller battlefield under the version 3 type. It was basically, 4 foot by 4 foot battlefield. Things started danger close, like the sun was up and you're in contact. Boom, you're right there. There wasn't a whole lot of maneuver or no need for these dash moves and that kind of stuff. It was just like you're right at the threshold of the wire. You're halfway through no man's land when the game starts. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can actually. I mean, because I think it's going to take some major tweaks to the current rules to capture the static warfare portion of Great War. We'll see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they come up with.
Yeah, one thing they're going to have to do is trenches. So this is kind of I've seen a lot of discussions on various forums or even other podcasts where, the repeat bombardment, and is it safer to move out or to stay put? I think one thing people got to remember is when you dig in Flames of War, like you actually roll your skill check to dig in, you're not digging in. You're scraping a little hole. You're getting behind a log. I mean, if you look at it, and Glenn will know what I'm talking about. You look at a proper 2-man fighting position. Your armpit depth. You're about 6 to 8 feet across with overhead cover in the sides. You got grenade sumps. You got all this stuff. Those things take hours to prepare. So
it's not like you just dig into a minute or two. Yeah. Yeah.
So you really just got to think about it. When you're getting hit by a repeat bombardment, you're just in a ranger grave. Just in a little scrape. You're not really significantly protected from something else. So So when they get to a Great War, when you're actually entrenched, right, with overhead protection and all that kind of stuff, that repeat bombardment rule with the reroll saves, that cannot be feasible in a trench type situation. They're going to have to do something different. So we'll see how that comes about. But just something I was thinking. I was like, man, I don't know how this is going to work. So cool. What else we got in here?
I think we've covered most of it.
There's naval troops and NKVD and Cossacks apparently for Russians. I should think we missed
for sure.
Yeah, mid-war. And a ton new kits, although a lot of them are just repackaged, Panzer IIIs and whatnot. And the thing that shocked me was that the statement that there's going to be plastic infantry for both Germans and Russians, which makes me think, are these going to be soft plastic?
I don't know. But I think what they mentioned, there's 36 new plastic kits for the Eastern Front, which is a lot of plastic.
The current plastic Russian infantry, is that late war only? I know there's some slight differences in the uniforms between mid-war and late war, but at 15 millimeter, do you really need new plastic Russians? Couldn't you use the late war plastic guys?
No, I use the same ones for both the eras, and there really is not a big weapon difference.
Yeah. So makes me wonder what they're up to here.
Well, maybe it's to have like a good cost-effective way of checking into a nice big box. I mean, for people that don't have them already, we're grizzled veterans, right? We already have all this stuff.
Yep.
But for like people going, oh man, I got to do the Russians. Yeah. And they're like, oh God, how many models do I have to buy? And then if it's, cheap in a nice, large economic box, then there you go. Especially if there's a couple KVs thrown in there.
Yeah, they're starter kits. They did talk about somebody asked about it. They're going to come out with new starter sets like the Open Fire, where we had the balanced forces, the excellent one. I think they said they're just going to keep to the single force starter set.
I think that's a better idea.
Yeah. So that was another thing they talked about on there.
Cool.
Well, we got a lot to look forward to.
Well, what are you guys' big thoughts here going forward?
I like the oil wars.
Well, I like the Team Yankee stuff. Yeah, that looks good.
Yeah, there's I just like knowing, right? I like having I know that things may change by the time we get there. What they're saying this month will be different 5 years from now, but it's just kind of nice to kind of have an idea now of the sequence and when things are coming, so you can plan your stuff accordingly. Like when you have your airborne troops by there, Tom. Apparently not for a while.
End of July. End of July. That's the rules.
Take a little longer.
I'm picking up my free drink right now.
Yeah, he's just gonna get another box set in the mail mysteriously.
Just taking them all on credit
the day before he leaves.
No, I'm excited that they're making such a commitment to trying to fix some of the issues that people have mentioned. I think that they've been really responsive, at least to any of the questions I've had. I know there's people that have had their frustrations, and I get it. But, it's a game I still enjoy. I still like painting the figs, and I still hope I can keep getting games, and so far it looks like I can.
Yeah, I don't think there's any danger of it's just it's like it's competing with itself now, right? Battlefront. We already talked about all the other competition going on, all the other great games that I played those two, Bolt Action. I got Star Wars Legion. I got, I got Test of Honor going on. I've got a lot of things out there that are Star Wars Armada. I know Glenn just played that from listening to the last podcast that Mitch put up there. So a lot of great stuff going on out there, but it competes not only with all that stuff, but it competes with itself. Flames of War, World War II competes within periods, like we were just talking about early war, and how that's not the lure for a lot of American players for one reason or another. We talked about Team Yankee and how the one reason why Flames of War events are down is because Team Yankee events have been picking up. Right, game stores can only hold so much stuff. There can only be so many events. So, every Team Yankee event, if it wasn't for the existence of Team Yankee, it may have been some sort of Flames of War, early war, late war, mid war thing. Who knows? So it's kind of just nice to know what the game plan is. And so whether you like it or not, you can plan accordingly, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, I think I got to ship this off to Sean for editing. Thanks everybody for spending part of your 4th of July. Happy Treason Day to Dennis.
I was going to say it's just
happy Treason Day to all you gentlemen. And Glenn, I'll see you at Historicon. And to everybody who listened, thanks for listening. And I hope this got out before I headed down to Lancaster.
All right.
See you there. Bye, guys.
All right. Take care.
Thanks so much for listening. And don't forget to head over to www.nodicenoGlory.com for all your wargaming news, reviews, and general chatter. And don't forget to check out the forums where you can contribute to the conversation as well. See you next time, folks.